This video was the most requested video by many of you in the comments because Xiaomi SU7 Ultra's lap record on the Nürburgring, the fastest electric executive class vehicle, a production spec vehicle on the Nürburgring, it's something to be proud of. But on the other hand, also last year they made a lap time with a prototype spec car, and many of the headlines said that it's the fastest four-door vehicle, and I actually made a video back then saying like, cool, but it means nothing. It has 4 doors, but it's a prototype, so who cares? But at the same time, I also praise them for this amazing achievement back then already, because no matter whether it's a prototype or not, a few years ago Xiaomi was a phone maker, and now they break lap records on the Nürburgring, and now they have advertisement on the Nürburgring before Foxhole, and now they actually released also a very interesting documentary on YouTube, which is also more or less the trigger for me to make this video for you guys, because it's over an hour long. It was quite very interesting. I watched it on the plane on the way to Greece, and it covers everything from the development of the car that started early in 2022 to actually the brake lap records, the many setbacks they had. So it's not just like this romanticized thing, how they are the greatest. No, it actually shows also many setbacks they had, various design iterations, and also various lap record achievements they had, and also dives deep into the importance of having Nürburgring lap records and why it's also important to have a specific Nürburgring driver, a lap record driver, in like opposite to other tracks. A lot of things that triggered me to making this video, so now yeah, let's talk about this. Why is it important? As mentioned, they have now the executive class EV lap record. Why is it actually special? As mentioned previously, before they were just electronics manufacturer, now they're breaking lap records. And they made a car, SU7 Ultra, has over 1500 horsepower, 3 electric motors with a torque vectoring, and depends on the country, it costs roughly 115,000 euros, which is less than half the price of a Porsche Taycan, which is the second car now, the second fastest car among the EV electric cars, because the Xiaomi has beaten them. In addition, which is actually also very cool, you can not only get the SU7 Ultra, you can also get, and let me get the correct word, I believe it's called the Racing Pack, which consists out of Bilstein Evo R suspension that we have been running for 2 consecutive years on our M4 GT4, so it's stuff that really works, endless brake pads, Pirelli Trofeo RS semi-slick tires, and also a couple of mods to the body. Usually manufacturers unveil a 4-door version of the car, then in 2 years comes the performance version, then in 2 years or in 1 year comes a performance version of a performance version, and now they actually dropped everything in one go pretty much. So they're going all in, and if this is already the start of Xiaomi Nürburgring experience, or performance experience in general, I don't know if I'm curious or excited or scared to see what's going to happen next. Another important feature is that it's actually the very first Chinese car manufacturer to have a production car spec, production car lap record on the Nürburgring. Before we had NIO and Lynk & Co, but those were the concepts or hyper cars you cannot buy, but SU7 Ultra, you can just go and buy it. It's an actual production spec vehicle. Finally, about the driver, actually quite an interesting one. Vincent Rademacher, did I say it with a proper Belgian accent because he's from Belgium? Vincent Rademacher has actually a very interesting CV, if you might say. Various racing participation from various Formula cars in his early years, even BTCC. He raced for Volvo, not the 850, but the later one, I think it was the S40, and many other cars. But as of recent years, he's been mostly actually active as a test and development driver. And one of his recent, or like the first and the last Nürburgring lap record that I at least know of, is with the Jaguar Project 8. I think Xiaomi felt like, hey, you know your way around big saloon cars, not so light cars on the Nürburgring, you should go and do it. And maybe he has also helped to fine-tune the software and the chassis of the car as well because of his predominant role. Also, having said in the documentary, it's very important to have a local Nürburgring specialist. And Xiaomi actually ran with their own test and development driver, and he done 10 seconds slower on the first attempt than Vincent. So 10 seconds of a Nürburgring seasonal pro versus a very experienced driver who actually knows the car in and out, but does not know the track that well into details. Very interesting features to see actually there as well. All right, should we dive deep into the Nürburgring lap record itself? Just gonna use my phone here and quickly sync the footage so I have the same what you're seeing on screen. All right, off we go. Xiaomi SU7 Ultra lap record, going through T13 on the brakes and gently accelerating through Sabine Schmidt's curve towards Hatzenbach, already early lifting off. And one thing that I want you to see is actually the brakes are actually being applied at the same time as the accelerator is being applied. I do not think that the driver is doing it by himself. Of course, you can have left foot braking from the traditional racing driving experience, it's possible. But my assumption is actually it happens because the car's telemetry detects the brake application through torque vectoring. And that probably is the case, because it would make very little sense to do it otherwise manually. Alright, off we go to Kudebacher Höhe, exceeding the speeds of 250 kilometers per hour, 270, almost 280 before Kudebacher Höhe and before Flugplatz. The Flugplatz GPS speed is slightly below 170 towards 180, and actually you can see the chassis jump. Now we actually see, again, on full throttle, there's still brake application towards 320 kilometers per hour. So I think, again, it's torque vectoring / traction control and not something that the driver is doing by himself. The minimal speed on GPS actually through Schwedenkreuz is not that crazy. So in general, EVs, oh, here's Xiaomi advertisement in Foxhole. In general, EVs, they lack the corner speed because of the increased weight, so you cannot put, yeah, all that mass. Also, by the way, the minimum speed through Foxhole, 240. The minimum speed through corners is significantly lower than traditional internal combustion engine cars, but they compensate for ballistic acceleration out of the corners. So as here, I don't know, forced exit on the gas, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're already at 200 kilometers per hour, exceeding that, 250, 260, and go on the brakes really early because you do need to slow down the car. On the gas, and already on the brakes directly to Metzgersfeld, or actually James left, yeah, the very famous corner. Then Kallenhardt, again, also early on the brakes, and you see also the accelerator is still being tapped while the car is full on the brakes. So I do think it has to do with traction control and simply the application of torque vectoring. Alright, miss, hit, miss, going towards Verseifen. Early on the brakes, again, very early, and trail braking all the way. It's actually, that was a very long braking, including trail braking into Verseifen. Small clipping of the curb maybe cost a bit of time through there. Again, early on the brakes here to stabilize it. Brake, and now gently, tiny bit on accelerator, and brake, and flat. Yeah. Off we go towards Lauda links, Lauda left. Also here, early on the brakes. Usually this corner is flat out, but you need to go on the brakes because, yeah, it's a heavy baby. On the gas again, and throughout here we will also see early lifting and early coasting, and also again brake application, brake and slide throttle at the same time. I hope maybe someone from Xiaomi can comment on that. I could not really find anything online on the interwebs, but yeah, gas. Almost 300 kilometers through here. Early on the brakes. Usually this is still flat with any other car, but you would not be doing these kind of speeds already. Mood curve 180 kilometers per hour. V minimum speed on the exit 200. Not bad, very good. And yeah, early on the brakes. To Startstrecke, brake. This is the point where your tires start getting already very hot and your car becomes very sensitive for understeer, more than it was already before. Also here, look at the brake and acceleration application through carousel. This makes no sense to do it as a driver. Again, I'm very curious what it is, but again, as mentioned, I think it's torque vectoring and traction control. Hole 8 on the brakes, on the gas, on the brakes, on the gas. There's a lots of stability assist happening, whether it's by the car itself or by the driver. But honestly, who cares? Because the lap looks, up until now, it looks so stable. Like, for the viewer experience, it's even boring because there is no sliding, no understeering, no oversteering. It's very controlled. So whether it's the driver, and of course it's also the driver, or the technology, it's actually very, very impressive. Alright, going to Brunchen, YouTube corner, yeah. Early on the brakes, trail braking, stabilizing with accelerator, yeah, on the brakes, and then going to ice curve. Easy gonna take the exit curb. Very minimum, actually. Okay, we're keeping it flat. Okay, through here it's actually, again, interesting that there's lifting happening to stabilize the car, to rotate the car. The jump on the gas, Flansgarden 1, Flansgarden 2, probably a bit on the, well, lifting definitely for the turn-in and stabilizing. And here on the gas. Again, the minimal corner speeds are actually nothing exceptional. It's even like lower than other cars that are potentially like faster. No, not faster on the Nürburgring. Some of them might be. Yeah, some of them might be like the internal combustion engine cars, sports cars. They have higher corner speeds, but the acceleration of Xiaomi is actually really intense, and especially here once we go out of Galgenkopf on the gas and flat. 200, 250 before hitting the gantry, 270, 300. Notice how Vincent is staying completely on the left for a less aerodynamic resistance. The car barely hits 350 because it needs to lift already to make the turn, but 350 is possible. On the brakes, into Tiergarten, again very stable. I'm really surprised by it. So the TC, like the whole chassis dynamics are working extremely great. Yeah, and here we are, 704.92, 95.7. Brakes electric executive vehicle lap record of Nürburgring Nordschleife, the fastest production car of electric executive vehicle in Nürburgring history. I know that based on the documentary that I watched, Xiaomi actually returned, because this was set on April 1st, and later in June, I believe in June, they came back to actually do it again. But again, like with many other times that Xiaomi came by, it was raining. So maybe, potentially, possibly, probably, they want to go sub 7. That will be actually very interesting and special. So that's all I want to say. It's an amazing achievement, again, as I said throughout the video, by the whole Xiaomi team, the engineers, also the driver, of course, the tires, the brakes, endless brake pads, all the components and everything, and the persistence. So I'm really curious to see what the company is going to be doing in the next coming years. And actually it was cool that throughout the year you could actually see quite some SU7s from China, from customers, the privateers, and also from nearby countries driving. And that's actually already impressive and nice. So I actually was supposed to drive one, but it was on a rainy track day, and the owner said, like, would you please drive it? And I said, I would love to, but the problem I have, I love wet laps. I love driving the cars for the first time in the wet as well, because then you really feel the chassis, how it controls. But unfortunately, for the majority world YouTube audience population, they don't understand. They're gonna say, oh, why are you driving so slow? Because the other car goes much faster. Oh, because you're in the wet. You don't want to die. You don't want to crash. So the first lap, I really hope I get to do next year with the SU7 Ultra on the Nürburgring with the track pack. And yeah, then I can give you my own opinion of the car, because so far it's been really hyped. The numbers show it, and I'm curious for it. And having said that, I'm also curious, again, what the answers are going to be from the companies that they have beaten. I've spotted the Porsche Taycan multi-racing or some crazy prototype thing. So I think the race to sub-7 for the 4-door EV is on. Is it going to be Xiaomi or is it going to be Porsche?